And we're back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for the two remaining fixtures in Premier League Game Week 37. This is going to be my first of daily uploads right through until Sunday when it comes to preview and predictions. We have got these two Premier League fixtures ahead of them taking place tonight. Then tomorrow, we have the Europa League final preview and prediction. Thursday, I'll be doing my prediction for the Women's Champions League final. On Friday, it will be my final La Liga video. That will be my preview and predictions for Game Week 38 in La Liga. Saturday will be the Championship, League 1 and League 2 playoff finals. And then Sunday will be the final day of the Premier League season. So we'll be doing our preview and predictions for Game Week 38 on Sunday. So if you haven't done so already, please do drop a like on this video if you enjoy all of my prediction series. And subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of that good stuff. And if you missed my massive update video that I posted on Sunday this week, you can check that out at the top of the screen right now. You can see everything that is going on this channel over the course of the summer as well. So plenty to get yourself stuck into. But speaking of getting stuck into, let's get stuck into these two fixtures taking place tonight. The first of them sees Crystal Palace taking on Wolves. And look, on face value, I think most people are going to be in agreement that this is basically Crystal Palace's game to lose. They're on an incredible run at the moment. They're unbeaten in their last 6. They've just won the FA Cup, their first major trophy in their history, which has qualified them for the Europa League next season as well. And on the other hand, Wolves have lost their last 2 matches without stalling, which has kind of stalled their progress as they were trying to make their way back up the Premier League table. That is why when you look at this at face value, it is very much Crystal Palace's game to lose. However, it is that FA Cup win that does have me having a little bit of doubt over what could potentially happen in this match. And the reason for that is we know Oliver Glasner has basically played his full first team in every single game this season. And the reward for that is that Crystal Palace have had a very good season in the Premier League. Yes, they had a bad start, but after that initial poor run, they've been absolutely fantastic in the Premier League. And having played his first team in every single round of the Cup, it has meant that they have got themselves into Europe via the FA Cup. So, with just 2 games left, and with the news that Mark Gay could be out, and that Wharton, who did play through his injury in the Cup final, could potentially be out again, I could see a scenario here where Glasner does finally change out the majority of his first team just to give the rest of his team some actual game time this season. But on the flip side, it is also their final home game of the season. So who knows? Maybe he still plays them one last time while they parade that FA Cup trophy around the ground, as they rightfully should. As for Wolves, they don't actually have any fresh injury concerns coming into this one at all. What's really sort of like disappointing in terms of trying to put stakes on this game is that whatever happens in this game, Crystal Palace will still be in 12th at the end of the night, and Wolves will still be in 14th at the end of the night. There is a 4-point gap each way for both teams. So there's not really a lot either of them can do about it. So there's not even like prize money on the line either, which does make it really, really tough to call. Final thing to note is that in the head-to-head record, Crystal Palace are actually unbeaten in their last 4 matches against Wolves, winning the ones at home, and they drew 2-2 away at Wolves earlier on this season. I'm going to take the assumption that Palace are going to play their full first team because there's no real other way I can sort of judge it. So if I think Palace, if they play their first team, even after the celebrations, I would have them as favourites. They've been free-flowing, free-scoring over the last few weeks. So I'm going to give them a 3-1 win here. But, like I say, if you see that starting lineup an hour before kickoff and it is not the usual suspects, I think that's where you've then got to start leaning towards Wolves. But we'll see. Very, very tough to call games at the end of the season, especially after something like an FA Cup win for Crystal Palace. So we'll see, but I'm going to go for 3-1 to Crystal Palace. And the second game is Manchester City taking on Bournemouth, and this has massive ramifications in the potential race for Europe. So much so that the reason why I've saved this video until today rather than doing it yesterday, and the reason why these two fixtures are put at the top of your screen right now, is because it allows me to show you what the league table is coming into these matches. Because look at that race for the Champions League places. It is beautiful. 66, 66, 66, 65, 65. Obviously, Man City have the game in hand. If they win the game in hand, they are up to 3rd. For Bournemouth, they sit in 11th. A win in this game will put them up to 9th, and a couple of points behind Brighton going into the final game of the season. Now, the race for Europe actually is still on for the sides trying to finish in 8th place. And that is because of some of the rulings surrounding what could happen with Chelsea. You see here, Chelsea are 4th at the moment. In order for the 8th place team to qualify for Europe, Chelsea would have to lose to Nottingham Forest at the weekend, dropping Chelsea into 6th or 7th. Once that has happened, they would then have to beat Real Betis in the Conference League final after the end of the Premier League season. And if that happens, that means 8th place will get into Europe. Any other scenario, 8th place is out. If Chelsea finish in the top 4, it doesn't happen because 6th and 7th will get in there. And if Chelsea lose to Real Betis and Chelsea finish 6th or 7th, which obviously is mathematically impossible for them not to finish in the top 7, then Chelsea will get their European place from finishing there in the Premier League rather than winning the Europa Conference League. So there is still something to fight for, and obviously there's a whole host of prize money available as well. Again, I said about it in the Palace and Wolves game. They're not really playing for anything in their match because they can't move their position in the table. A win for Bournemouth here could take them 2 places up in the Premier League table, which is worth millions and millions of pounds come prize money come the end of next week. So there is still a lot to play for both teams. In terms of the actual fixture itself, both sides were on actually pretty decent runs of form until last weekend, where obviously City failed to score at relegated and bottom club Southampton and backed that up by once again failing to score in that FA Cup final this weekend, losing to Crystal Palace. Bournemouth, on the other hand, were also on a very good run of form after just winning away at Arsenal to massively bolster their chances of finishing 8th. They then lost at home to Aston Villa. So both sides are on a little bit of a downer at the moment, and for both sides it's absolutely must win for their respective European ambitions. In terms of the team news, there's actually no fresh concerns for either side out of the FA Cup final and out of last week for Bournemouth. So I'm looking at this as it is literally both teams are going to play their full first teams. For Manchester City, there is obviously rumours that De Bruyne might not play this game, even though it is going to be his last home game for Manchester City, as Pep does usually tend to rotate. But I would be surprised if he doesn't play, who I still think is Manchester City's best player, in their final home game of the season. The other issue is, in terms of predicting this game, is that Manchester City had won every single game against Bournemouth in the Premier League era up until the reverse fixture in the Premier League so far this season. It's something like 19 wins to City and 1 win to Bournemouth. And then, obviously, off the back of losing to Bournemouth in the league, City then went back to Bournemouth in the FA Cup and beat them away in that game as well. So realistically, Manchester City should be winning this game, and my head absolutely says Manchester City will win this game, but my heart thinks that Bournemouth can certainly get at least something from this match. However, I run this series seriously, so I'm going to go with what I expect to happen, which is a 2-1 win for Manchester City. I'd be very surprised if both teams don't score in this one, but as we just said, the reason why I think there's a chance for Bournemouth here is because it's been shown over the last couple of weeks that if you sit super deep against Manchester City at the moment, right now, they're not capable of breaking teams down. The difference here is that Bournemouth obviously need to win to keep their ambitions alive, so at some point they're going to have to go for it. So we'll see. I think Manchester City are going to edge it. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching as always. I'll see you again tomorrow for the Europa League preview and prediction. Come on, Manchester United.